Well, hello, Internet. My name's Ian Utility, and I'm here with the Beachside Tech Talk team. I got Nigel coming in from the East Coast. So sad. He was with us for the last 2 weeks. We're missing your hugs, your presence, having breakfast together every day. We got Ted coming in from Silicon Valley. I'm here with my brother Dan, my son Malachi. We even got Riza and Nathan in the house, and our production team. And we started a little bit later than usual on the live stream because it's a Monday morning. We were fiddling around with the radio stuff. Well, here we are, everybody. We're going live on the radio. Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk. My name is Ian Utility, and here we are, 1340 a.m., home of Schoolhouse Radio. We are in the local community radio station. This place has been here since 1947. It's incredible to be a part of this and bring local voices. What we like to talk about here during our program from 12 to 2 every weekday is the impact and our optimistic view overall, the impact of technology upon our lives. We change the topic every day. So on Mondays, we like to talk about community and philanthropy. We just finished up a conversation around how does technology potentially impact our relationships, our soul, the souls of others? How does it help us to love well? And now we're going to dive into just kind of the news of the day for all things Web3. You might think of it as crypto or blockchain. There's all sorts of names for it. We just call it Web3 around here. And what's happening right now in the world of Web3, whether it's local or it's something that's happening around the world. Any cool updates you guys saw over the weekend or saw this morning regarding community and philanthropy that you might like to share?
Sam Altman just described that he's launching the OpenAI GPT number 5 model. So, and it apparently it's going to be a potential barometer for whether the AI is being used as hype or if it's actually justified. So I think he's leaning into the big construction projects that's being done out there in what is it, Abilene in Texas?
Yeah, out in Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they've apparently launched a new model, and my thing is they've got 5 models now, and it's so difficult to even.
It's a lot more than 5. They have all the O models.
Well, they have all, yeah. In the sidebar, you can have all kinds of different AI models help you, but as far as the GPT, this is their 5th model, and then they have their 4 and minis and their 3, but the 5 is supposed to be actually able to have agents go out as you put in a query. They're sending multiple agents out to come back together and talk to each other before they actually give you the output. So we'll see how it works out, and we'll see who's using it to their benefit.
I think it's interesting that these things, there's like the few big names in AI. You got like ChatGPT, you got Google with their Gemini, and then you got Claude from Anthropic, and then you got like Grok from XAI. And you could say there's more that are also the top dogs, but those 4 are the ones that have been taking the first place spot. But it's funny how one of them releases a model and now they're just barely in first. And then the next one releases a model and now they're just barely in first and it's their turn.
And who ranks?
And then
That's
it
my
just
question.
It just keeps going in a loop over and over again. And I wonder if it's ever going to get to a point where these things actually have deep meaning, or if it's just that people are slowly increasing.
Nigel's raising his hand like we're in school.
Oh, I want to hear what Nigel has to say.
Yeah, I rank them.
Okay, Nigel's in charge. Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah.
How do you rank them?
Extra spicy. Okay, so it would be helpful if new model wasn't the metric. New model coming out. And my response is, and what does it do different than the old model specifically? And even more specific, what does that mean for the average user? New model could be great for big business, mean nothing to you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone says I came out with a new rocket, nobody in this room buying a rocket anytime soon.
New models could just mean
but if those rockets put satellites up there quicker, we're using internet from Starlink. So
yeah,
or don't.
Almost all these things will apply to our lives in some way, whether that's directly or indirectly. But it is definitely a thought that's worth having. That do these things actually affect me directly?
Right.
one thing that I think that I'm happy about is that they're still competing. You know, the projections were that the person who got the lead would get, you know, that lead would just grow and grow and grow and no one else can compete with them. Maybe they're still saying that's what's going to happen. That's not the future I want. I want a competitive marketplace. So I'm glad that there's multiple players out there still fighting for, for dominance in the market. And I hope no one person wins the market. And I also hope the market doesn't evolve to a place where there's basically a gateway around small players, but there probably will be.
Yeah, necessity is the only thing really that creates innovation. You almost have to have some sort of necessity because working really hard is hard. And so unless you have a need for it, whether that's competition or some kind of thing happening in the world, the only real way to force a group of people to make something happen is through necessity.
Well, let me share some cool news in the Web3 world and get your guys' take on it. So billionaire Chris Larson, he made a $9.4 million donation. He's a crypto pioneer, I believe with the Ripple, world. And his donation is to help the San Francisco Police Department, their technology with a real-time crime center, and to help them modernize. So here's a guy that's concerned about the safety of his city. And he thought, well, I know what I'll do. I have money, I have resources. I'll give my money, my resources to make sure that they make the changes they got to make. And that his aim is to make San Francisco safer and for everyone. So I thought that was kind of a cool story, right? Somebody sees a problem, they have crypto, they're really wealthy, and so they aim to solve the problem themselves. Another local Web3 thing, Berkeley just hosted a blockchain summit. They brought together leaders of Ripple, which is where Chris is from, leaders of Ethereum, and leaders of Coinbase. Coinbase is the top exchange in the nation, arguably top in the world, next to Binance. And Coinbase has made a lot of really major, innovations, time and time again, over and over again. It's been wild the last few months for them. So they brought all the leaders together to fuse Web3 with real world impact. So they basically brought together this brain power, and they want to showcase how decentralization and AI can drive community innovation for good. So one thing that I'm excited about is all of these major players in the Web3 space recognize the significance of AI. They're not playing in their own little world. They're acknowledging the benefit of both coming together. So what do you guys think about, we're talking about community, right? So I mentioned one philanthropic story, and now I'm talking about community. We're talking about Web3 creating community connections, but how about just the Web3 community that's fragmented and doing their own thing, right? Ethereum has their own world, Coinbase has their own thing, Ripple, et cetera, coming together to try to do things together. What do you guys think about that effort? And do you believe it will result in long-term, these folks be able to work together to do great things?
I certainly hope it will result in long-term collaboration. I was very encouraged, and I have been, of the collaboration that I've seen in the Web3 world. You know, our ethos, our value is decentralization, collaboration, coming against the whole consolidation of Web 2. And I hope that ethos continues as it grows and reaches a different phase. So it's encouraging to see that they're still collaborating. I believe collaboration is the best practice. And, decentralization and collaboration are, two sides of the same coin. So if we want to, I'm hoping we don't get to the place where we just talk about decentralization, but it's been consolidated to one provider or a handful of providers. So that's an encouraging story.
What were you going to say, Nigel?
I think the opportunity to collaborate is huge. I would just like to see them come to a common foundation. So one of the things I thought about when you mentioned the police donation, right, is something, it made me recall something when I was in corporate called 360 reviews, which they did away with because they were a little too good. I think that when you put measures out there that will have no way of stacking the deck in their favor. So for instance, if I was donating money to the police department, I would go hire somebody super secret to just pick some citizens in various areas and measure that. You'll never know who I'm measuring. So you'll just do better. So like there's this one, reminds me of this one episode of The Wire where the mayor's running around and he goes in to the parks department and he just runs in and says, hey, I saw a playground. It was all rusted out. It needs to be fixed. And he just leaves. And they're like, well, where's the playground? So no one knows where the playground is. So they go start looking at every playground that needs to be fixed. And he keeps doing that. So now you're going to work on everything that needs to be worked on. And apparently you have some idea of where these things exist. So I think when you level up the common playing field and you don't allow ways for it to stack a deck, you have a more transparent way of finding things. And it's universally applicable across everybody, all platforms, if we do that.
So, Ted, obviously a $10 million donation to the police is awesome. You're in this, right? You're in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Clara counties and beyond. Is this the best way of making a city safer? Is for a private citizen to throw $10 million at the police station? Not that it has to be. I don't think
it'll hurt. And I understand why he's doing it. But it also highlights a problem in the philanthropy area that there's not much discoverability for innovative ways. So we already know the best way to allocate resources to actually move the needle to make the city safer. And we just had my friend, Adrian Tirginati, just had a monumental study that actually happened in San Francisco that dove deep into the Bayview Hunters Point. But there's also many other studies that criminal justice is only a small portion of our justice. The vast majority of law is civil law. And that's where we're really, really failing. That is where America is at the bottom of the heap. We're dead last of all the developed countries, and we're behind several non-developed countries as far as access to justice for civil law for the poor. And study after study shows that by making universal access to civil justice, civil law for the poor, in other words, to explain it better, in America, in criminal law, you're guaranteed a lawyer, you're guaranteed representation, but that's not true in civil law. And we're the only developed country that does it this way. So we don't guarantee protection or legal representation for civil law. So that is domestic violence, that is wrongful termination, that is wage theft, that is foreclosure. And it turns out that that's a major, major flaw in our system. So $10 million allocated towards providing access to civil law would have moved the needle far greater than adding it to police services. So like they did one study that compared various interventions for domestic violence. You know, police services, they compared counseling, they compared, financial aid, support, and all these things. The one that performed the best and the one that actually moved the needle to decrease rates of domestic violence in that community was providing access to civil law. So I think it was that same study that showed providing access to lawyers for civil law was 1/4 the cost of providing more police, and in order to get the same results of lowering crime. So that highlights a deeper issue. So I'm glad he's philanthropic and he's generous in donating, but we give to ways that are not the best ways because we're not aware of the studies that are out there. We're certainly not as aware as we are in the for-profit sector. If someone was moving the needle this big on an issue with an innovation in the for-profit area, they would be snapped up. They would be bought by, acquired or blown up or invested in. It's not that way in philanthropy.
Well, over 70% of America's top 100 charities now accept crypto donations. It was over $1 billion was gifted last year in cryptocurrency. They're expecting that to explode this year. And so, there's many organizations that are trying to provide legal services. Ted, we know Adrian in San Francisco. So that would be one example, right? Instead of giving $9.4 million to the police, there could be a partial allocation that could go toward legal services for those that are being taken advantage of by wealthy people or organizations or the government and have no way of really defending themselves because we don't have in our country the right to a defense attorney when you are being done wrong. We only have the right to a defense attorney when you've done wrong, right? You've done a crime, you get a defense attorney. But someone's doing a crime against you, too bad for you. You're a poor person getting taken advantage of by someone. Oh, too bad. We don't have anything in our system to help you. So that's why we love what Adrian does. So on that final thought, I do want to transition to some more news, but tell us about Adrian's organization in 30 seconds or less.
opendoorlegal.org. You can go find them out. They are pioneering our nation's first system of universal access to legal aid. They're in San Francisco. That's the only place they're at. It's unique. Their approach is unique. They're basically a general hospital for civil law, different than the other, peer organizations. And they're getting huge results. The study just came out that their intervention was causal in a 49% reduction in homelessness in the Bayview Hunters Point district from 2013 to 2023. So check them out. They're a really cool organization. Good friends of ours.
Awesome. A couple other cool stories about giving. One is in our nation, over $500,000 of donations from independent people to the Texas flood relief have come through crypto. And so this is just a matter of, somebody had Bitcoin and at one point it was worth 60,000, then it's 120. And then it's 20,000 and then it's all over the place. But at some point they go, hey, I have resources. I'm sitting on this cryptocurrency. I want to help people in Texas. The fastest, most seamless way for me to get money to them is to send either this cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or send a digitized dollar, a USDC, a USDT. So happy to see that our nation, people are taking care of one another. One that's on a global scale, there's a Telegram-born meme coin called Dogs. And the purpose of this meme coin community is to basically give money to animal shelters and kids' charities. So they gave over $500,000 to animal shelters. And the folks that are part of that meme coin community, which is basically just a tokenized community, they all have one thing in common. They're buying and holding these tokens, and then they're leveraging the money that they have made by people valuing the tokens and the community becoming more and more popular and the membership being more and more important. And then they give profit to animal shelters. So that's another exciting thing that I see happening is there's a lot of stuff happening around philanthropy through cryptocurrency. We still have about 2.5 minutes. Any other thoughts, or should I read a couple more stories?
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit earlier about something that actually, no, we'll talk about that later because we're running out of time. Tell us another story.
I feel like the nonprofits and the grant community has really been on fire these last couple of years.
Yeah, that's true.
Granting and grant writing and funding, it seems like there's an open door out there. If you've got a good cause, if you've got a good business plan and something that you can put together to actually help your community or engage to making a situation better, these grants that are being written now are just blowing up and philanthropically that people are looking forward to seeing these different grants that are being built and put together locally here. I'm trying to find there's a thing called Putting Your Generosity to Work, a community foundation in the Santa Cruz County. That's a philanthropic endeavors that are trying to help homeless get back on their feet and then start maybe some vocational schooling, or maybe learn a trade or something like that. So that's a great endeavor to take on too.
Well, I'll mention one other global story with the last minute, something called Across Africa. At least that's what I think it's called. Anyway, it's a Web3 hackathon, over $1 million in prizes, over 10,000 participants across 15 countries in Africa are participating. And it's
10,000.
to build blockchain solutions. So that is definitely a cool thing happening. And that reminds me of a big hackathon that's happening next Wednesday, the 20th of August in San Francisco for Coinbase. Coinbase is encouraging people to come do a hackathon on their base platform. They say that, Apple takes half or 30%. So does Google. We don't take fees. So we'll be back again in just a moment with some more news. This next segment will be about AI news. Thank you for joining us here at Beachside Tech Talk. San Francisco for 10 generations, 250 years. And so I come from two different families, the Moragas and the Pachecos. And the Moragas, they founded the Presidio in San Francisco. They founded the city of San Jose. And the Pachecos, they're known for Pacheco Pass, or the Trails of Tears. And if you go further back in your history, you're going to find that somewhere back there was royalty, the Moragas, and somewhere back there was either the victimizers that had slaves or the victims that were slaves. The Pachecos were both. How about here in New York, which I love to come to? On my father's side, the Italians came here. My last name was Gutale. It was 9 letters. But there was so much persecution for Italians when they left their community in Sicily and they came here that they changed their name to Utili. And I've been called everything. Utile, Utterly, Utiti. I mean, people have tried everything. It's Utili, because my great-great-grandfather changed our last name because he left the community he belonged to and came to a new place that he didn't fit in, where his people were not at. On the other side of my father is an Ashkenazi Jew. My great-great-grandfather escaped Europe, didn't get thrown in the concentration camps, came to America, and never told my grandma she was a Jew. My dad had no idea. It's when I did the ancestry thing for him and my mom that my dad found out. My grandfather was an Ashkenazi Jew and escaped Europe. That's crazy. Why? Why did he never tell his family about his ancestry? Because he left his people, because his people were persecuted, and he lost his identity, and he chose to just be another person in New York. And when we think about tokenized communities, isn't the idea to decentralize what's currently centralized? Don't you imagine that even the largest centralized faith communities, like the Catholic Church, does it get larger than that? Or the Mormon Church, right? Or some of these big centralized institutions. Don't you think that the people are going to demand eventually that they decentralize? I mean, all these faith groups are already trying things around tokens, or trying things around distributed ledgers, trying things around NFTs. Don't you imagine that our kids, our grandkids, are going to demand that they have immutable ledgers that show them where the money goes? When I give you money, what are you doing with it? Are you feeding the homeless? Are you housing people? Are you caring for orphans and widows? What are you doing with the money I give you? And who are the people that are in charge, and why are they in charge? And how do I know they actually are qualified for this? Don't you understand that we're the generation that's demanding more of institutions, and the centralization just no longer is going to be accepted? So we have these NFTs, which we're here at NFT NYC. I love this place. It's my 8th event with the team. Love being here with Lou every year. NFTs are private, exclusive, limited communities. And then we have things like memes, or just general fiat cryptocurrency. And these are inclusive. You can own a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of one of these things, and you're still in the club, right? Now, when you think about the inclusive communities of crypto and the exclusive communities of NFTs, you want to ask yourself, what is it about these that cause people to have loyalty? It has to do with belonging. Maybe it helps if we think of a community as a body. So when you go and you're part of a community, you ask yourself, am I a thinker? Am I the brain of this community? Should I be thinking for us? Am I a communicator? Am I the mouth of this community? Should I be speaking for us? Am I the doer? Am I the feet for this community? Should I be marching forward for us? Am I the heart? Should I feel for us? Am I the hands? Should I reach out and reach somebody and bring them toward us? Now, the hand is no good without the arm. The brain is no good without the neck. So wouldn't it make sense for us to be a little bit more thoughtful about how each of us are bringing something to the table? One of the things I love about NFTs and I love about memes or crypto in general is the ability that people have to make a sacrifice when they join. You know that our ancestors didn't join communities like, I've arrived, here I am, you're so fortunate, I've joined your community, what's in it for me? That's not how they acted. All of our ancestors were a lot more like this. Oh, hey, can I be part of this? I mean, I could clean some toilets. I could, no. It's not about me. I see you and I think to myself, maybe you're my people. There was so much humility with the way that our ancestors joined communities. Yet somehow, some way, our attitude has changed so far from the primal human way that we've interacted with communities for so long. But it's not too late. We can still turn the tide. We can still join with humility. And one of the ways you join with humility is to start with sacrifice. So when you go buy that NFT, you're making a financial sacrifice to come in humbly and say, I honor this community. I'm here to lay down my money. What is money? But a simple tool to exchange value. I have money. I've been given something that says I brought value to somebody. I'm going to give my value to you because I value your community. You want to be a Bitcoin holder, an ETH holder, a meme coin holder. You walk in and you don't beat your chest and say, here I am, everybody. You get your wallet and you join in. Decentralized. Don't talk to nobody. There's no interview. There's no process. Your money does the talking. Your sacrifice does the talking. It's the sacrifice financially that gets you in the club because you value being part of it. Maybe there's 2 times that a person, it's most important in their life. The day they're born and the day they find out why. But what if the way we find out why we're born, our purpose, our destiny, what if it's hidden inside of that community? What if it's when you find your people, then you find your purpose? What if it's your destiny is hidden in the community? And you don't just want to be in a community and be like, you're my person. I love you. I see you. No, you want to be in a community and you want to walk around and you want to hear, you're my person. I love you. I see you. We all want to be seen. We all want to be loved. We all want to be somebody's people. And we can tokenize the process of communities. My chief of ethics has been with me 11 years. He recently shared this vision he has of homeless museums and incarcerated museums. And the idea is this. How about our great-grandkids never know what a homeless person is like, never seen a jail or a prison because we solved homelessness and incarceration? How do we do that? Maybe it's communities. Maybe centralized communities is not doing the trick. Maybe we need to rethink decentralized communities. Because ultimately, if you aren't part of a community of thugs, then you don't do the crime, then you don't do the time. And you see Ted, he's been playing basketball at San Quentin with the prisoners for the last 18 years, so they became his people. And he started thinking, we can solve this. We can solve the incarceration. We can stop 21st century slavery. There's got to be a way to do this. Maybe it's communities. And I would say, well, maybe it's tokenized communities. How do we give people a chance to join a community to change their destiny because they find their purpose in their people and they do it, and the first thing they do is sacrifice, whether it's with a meme or it's with an NFT. And my final thing I want to say to all of you is this. It's not the crowd that transforms the world. It's the woman. It's the child. It's the grandfather. It's the one that's been counted out. It's the one that had to learn a new language. It's the one that's failed. It's the one that lights themselves on fire and lets the world come watch them burn. And for those of you that are in this room, and for those of you that watch this later, I just poured gasoline on you. Do you have the courage to light?
For audio content creators, opportunities and revenue are drying up. If you feel like you are alone and lost, look up. A change is coming. Attention.live amplifies your Web3 content across marketplaces with ease. Podcasters, musicians, lecturers, preachers, storytellers, it is time to thrive. Attention.live can live stream, mint, and distribute your audio, all the while ensuring it stays secure and authenticated. Audio creators and their communities will build and monetize together at Attention.live. Sign up now for our beta and amplify your voice with Web3 and AI.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
.org. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk. My name is Ian Utilli. I'm here with my brother Dan, my son Malachi. We got Nigel coming in from the East Coast and Ted from Silicon Valley. And we're about ready to start our segment on what's happening right here, right now, today, or at least this week, in the news when it comes to all things AI. Artificial intelligence, which is questionable if it's even a real thing. Is anything artificial and intelligent, or is it just a machine,
or is it just
that
data
is learned off of our data? We ask ourselves questions like, is this real? Are we going to a dystopic future? This weekend we watched a movie again called Alita, Battle Angel, and it's all about robots, kind of these humanoid cyborg robots with human tissues and brains and, inside of it. And we have all these different things of what could be. And oftentimes our media is so incredibly negative and dystopic. I mean, don't just mean like news. I mean like entertainment media. Mm-hmm. And when we think about communities, the way we treat one another oftentimes is based on what we believe is true or is going to be true. I was encouraged by the movie Fantastic Four because to me, it was a cool thing to see a like 1950, 1960 setting with flying cars and what appeared to be kind of really advanced robots, really advanced kind of AI, if you want to call it that. So when Nigel was here in town, we went and saw that movie. Nigel, what was your thought? And Dan, you're with us. What was your thought on seeing a positive view of technology is set in a past setting, kind of like it reminded us of Jetsons, is what we had talked about initially. Any thoughts on that before you dive into the news?
I thought it was interesting how things are coming full circle. Like you're saying, they had sort of leaned into a Jetson esque type of thing. I think the movie was set in a 1960s era, I believe. So there was not a lot of digital technology that had been let loose in that movie. Everything was still analog, but I found it just crazy how they had, flying cars, different type of communicators. It wasn't a cell phone type of yet, but it was a kind of a Bluetooth walkie-talkie or something that they were able to keep in contact with each other with. I think it's great that we have those kind of things, because those thoughts actually lead into our future. If it can be thought of, it can be done, kind of thing. So, back in the Jetson days, we had the little flying cars and the automated robot for the homemade kind of thing. She was running around vacuuming the house or whatever that might be. But that's led into where we are today. They have for the vacuuming, we have the room.
The little robot.
The little robot room thing. I don't know where that.
Cats like to drive on.
Yeah. I don't know where that went, but I mean, I know a lot of people actually got them for those first couple of years that they were introduced. It was a great idea. You got a little server on front that's actually just monitoring where it's coming into close approximation to a wall or an item, and the thing just does a U-turn and just goes around until it's swept the room in a grid pattern. Pretty rudimentary, but worked well. It's going to clean your room for you. So that was a small advancement that we kind of took for granted. And then I guess that just kind of went bye-bye for a minute. I don't know who people use. I still see now the Dyson or something like that. Is we're back to pushing things around again. It didn't work out too well for the Roomba.
The Roomba has failed. The Dyson has won. The Dyson has won big. Dyson is they've taken.
Dude, we have that thing. That thing works great.
Works great as a hairdryer, as a fan, as an air conditioner, as a vacuum. They got any kind of thing that has to do with sucking and blowing. Dyson's dominating.
Settle down.
Okay, Nigel, you tried to talk. You're on mute. Let us hear what you have to say about positive view of all things AI. And before you jump into the news,
I thought the Fantastic Four was helpful. It was in viewing a hero to root for, where the whole community was behind the Fantastic Four to solve this world problem. And I would love to see more of that manifest in today.
For sure.
Well, let me jump in to a couple cool news stories that's happening right now, and then we'll kind of see where the conversation takes us. So in Santa Cruz, there's a new nonprofit AI studio, and it's called AI Sparks. It's supposed to help local businesses work smarter. So you can find out more about this in santacruzworks.org. It's backed by a city grant, and you can check out more at fabrana.ai. And it's supposed to deploy mini AI teammates, not chatbots, but kind of like, think micro assistants, to do tasks like video editing or automating paperwork, proving even a small community like ours can harness AI to boost human creativity. So I'd love to see things like this hit every small city, every mid-size, small county. What do you guys think about that? Little AI workers being basically given to small businesses to do things like video editing, automating paperwork, probably helping with anything that's not private, right? Any sort of task. What do you guys think about that being done by a nonprofit studio and being done specifically to help small businesses, local businesses, or of course local nonprofits?
I mean,
how might that help our community?
Simply yay. That's an amazing thing to hear. I hope that there's no strings attached, because that's one of the things that is sounding like, yeah, of course, that's a really good idea. Just make that happen. And it's always good to hear things like that happen. I mean, AI just has this unique ability to get rid of the tasks that we don't want to do anymore. And now we can hand these things off to this AI. And it's especially useful for small businesses. That's the main place where I see it being very applicable. I mean, earlier this year, a national challenge rewarded 3 AI solutions fighting poverty with quite a lot of money. But it's just a interesting thing that, and this is by Robinhood, the big crypto market area. And it's interesting to see how they're giving money away philanthropically, but they're doing it in a way that is kind of fun. It's like gamifying, finding a good solution to a problem that is, well, a very needed problem. Poverty is not so fun.
What's your guys' take on these ideas? Either what Malachi just brought up or the AI studio that's providing free AI tools to small businesses. Anything that you guys think about this, both happening in Santa Cruz and the impact of this type of grant and approach being rolled out across the nation?
I think it's a great.
I think it's a great opportunity.
All three are jumping in. Everyone's got something to say right now.
All three of you guys said, I think it's great. That's hilarious.
That's
because it is. Because it is great. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Now no one's speaking.
And no one's
Go ahead, Ted.
I think it's great. It makes a lot of sense for the city to invest in giving away free AI. I wonder how long they're going to do it and what their criteria are, how you qualify. But yeah, to make Santa Cruz an early adapter of this, you know, it's a huge need that we need, because simultaneously we're on a kick in our nation that I don't really agree with, but we're not a political thing, but we're really anti-immigrant right now. We're kind of trying to clear them out, which means we're going to have a massive deficit in workers. So, but it makes sense for Santa Cruz to sponsor a nonprofit with their goal, I imagine, making Santa Cruz an early adapter of AI workers. You know, I think I'm all for it. I mean, and also, again, the framework we need to have, which has played out with every technology since fire in the wheel. I mean, they cut out jobs, but they don't really eliminate jobs. They transition it, because they create new jobs and they transition. So what we need to do as humans is we need to adapt and, you know, see the future jobs that they're creating, because the sweet spot to me in the future is going to come. It's not AI taking over. It's going to be human and AI interacting together. And we've got to figure out how that is and how that's going to play out. And we're all for Santa Cruz being a forerunner and figuring this out. So I'm glad the city's getting behind that and that they're making it free so that they can be early adapters. So let's jump in. Let's do it.
And what do you think, Nigel? Then we'll go to Dan.
I think it's a great opportunity for them to be the example of transparency that needs to happen to foster greater adoption. Start with the transparency. Here's what you're getting. Here's what you're not getting. Here are competing interests. And lay it all out. And create that, let that be the gold standard or benchmark for everything that comes afterwards. Build a trust.
Dan?
Yeah, I think that our community is coming together in so many ways, and this small giving is going to be the benchmark for how things are actually take movement and get traction to solve these problems. I think Santa Cruz is a great community, and actually is bringing the digital technology here in the forefront. We're so close to Silicon Valley, it only seems right that we kind of be the tip of the spear of trials and errors kind of thing, the tip of the spear in education and learning these new web tools that are actually coming about. And the community itself, being a beach community, actually provides that that beginning integration of handshakes. You know, being able to roll around a sand beach community just with your coffee and stuff, having like-minded people, and then getting together and having the handshakes as they sip that coffee, as they, you know, carry their phone around or their tablet or whatever they're using. I see a lot of people in coffee shops and computer shops that are starting to just meet up on maybe a weekly basis. I think that it's great that Santa Cruz is also trying to incorporate like a Web3 and AI community open workshops. I know the libraries are starting to try and do something. I had maybe mismentioned last week that downtown Santa Cruz was starting a Web3 and AI local focus and it was the AI was feeding me the wrong information or something. I guess they are actually doing something, but they haven't implemented yet. So they're planning on having a Wednesday, open source and open book meeting kind of thing in one of the conference rooms at their library. So I look forward to joining that very soon.
So I was watching a conversation with Peter Diamandis, who was the founder of X Prize, and he has
founder of what?
X Prize, which is basically giving grants to people that can do things with deep space or deep ocean. And then he's really well known. He has the organization Moonshots. He had Ahmad and 3 other guys on. Ahmad is the founder of Stable Diffusion, and they were all talking about OpenAI's 5 that just came out, and kind of the lack of bells and whistles and fireworks, and it was kind of a boring presentation. It doesn't matter how good it is if it's not 5 times better than the last one. It's like everybody's kind of let down, so the media's like, whatever, who cares? And it was kind of like, are we all of a sudden going through the doldrums? Are we all of a sudden going through like a valley of enthusiasm that if a product only is twice as good, but not 10 times as good, that people are like let down by it? And the big takeaway was that it's just a lot cheaper to use. GPT-5 saves OpenAI a ton of money. And OpenAI becomes more and more and more powerful as time goes on. They keep making decisions to ensure their power. I think I mentioned that NVIDIA, over 70% of NVIDIA employees are now millionaires because the stock price went up so high. Yet 100% of OpenAI employees are millionaires because they just offered a $1.5 million bonus to every single employee. Even the least compensated employee got a $1.5 million bonus over 2 years. OpenAI is doing a lot, right? They're giving a lot away. Another example that hit the news recently is they did something that they called the Nonprofit Jam. They recruited over 1,000 nonprofit leaders to train them on how to use ChatGPT for their nonprofits, and they gave free ChatGPT Plus to them for a year. Now, on one hand, it's like, wow, this is so cool. Look what they're doing. They're giving, millions of dollars away of their product. They're supporting nonprofits. They're training nonprofits. They're giving them the tools. That's true. At the same time, they're also doing a unique, aggressive marketing thing, right? They're making sure that people are thinking about their tool. Are we concerned, the 5 of us, around a lack of competition? Do we feel like this space of AI is competitive enough with Grok, Claude, Anthropic, ChatGPT, and all the rest that are out there, right? Microsoft has Copilot. There's Google has Gemini. Plus, of course, there's Alexa. That still, we have no idea what Amazon's going to do with their Alexa. We have no idea what Apple.
I know. Has anything been said about that?
Not publicly.
I feel like they're kind of sitting in the background, letting the competition work out the bugs. Let them solve the problems and issues. We save a ton of money when the problems get solved, or at least begin to get solved. Then we can come into the game and enter in at a much more strategic level.
Well,
I think maybe that's what Apple is doing.
They have the hardware. No one else has the hardware.
Right.
So everyone is dependent upon people's cell phones. And so Alexa can be used on a cell phone, no problem. For all the people out there in the radio land that, I'm sorry, I probably triggered your voice speaker. I apologize for that. I'll call it the big A. I'll call it Lexi for short. What happens is they have all the hardware. They sold 100 million plus of these devices. And when the software gets good enough that they can implement their own upgrade of Lexi, or they can implement whatever they want. Maybe it ends up being Grok's, heavy or something of that nature. And now all of a sudden their hardware is tied to a specific software. My question comes back to this. How do we feel currently, August 2025, about the current competitive landscape of AI? Because it's not as though there are 10,000 thriving competitors or even 100 thriving competitors to the OpenAIs and the Groks and the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, right? You're talking about a half a dozen, basically $1 trillion market cap companies that all seem to be fighting and competing and sometimes collaborating with each other, right? Both Apple and Microsoft are collaborating with OpenAI. So how do we feel as the five of us being in this space about the current place of competitiveness across the industry?
When I was talking earlier about how they kind of have this little circle that they go in where one of them makes a model that's a little bit better, and then they're first, and the next one does that, and then the next one does that. And they kind of just loop around for who gets the first place spot for a few weeks. And it does beg the question, are they doing this intentionally? Are they intentionally making it so that they're each just a little bit better? Because it was said, like OpenAI did say, they do have a way better model, but they're not going to release it because they don't want it to cost them so much money, and they want to be able to kind of gatekeep their model that's really good.
Yeah, and Apple has iPhone 22. So don't forget, this is not unique just to AI. Every company, Ford has their 2029 model already done, ready to ship, but they're still going to put out their 20. Of course, all these companies are way ahead of the curve. When they're huge, massive hardware, software companies, they are always ahead of the curve. They have their products they take a year, 2 years just to plan the marketing of how they're going to roll this out, how they're going to try to convince people that they need the new version, which usually doesn't have that many changes. Well, Nigel, you're leaning into the mic. What do you got to say?
I'm really looking forward to see companies partner in more specific spaces and come out with examples, because I think that's where the rubber is going to meet the road. If someone were to ask me, like, what's the best AI? My first question would be like, for what? Because they all have their own talents, their own skills that come to bear. And I think that some of the challenge for the everyday person is that when you start to see people comparing these models, the comparison is usually at such a high level that I don't know how much of it is actually applicable to the everyday person. And
yeah, it's a fair question.
That. So, and it might have competing interests built in, marketing and other monetizations built in, even though those are disclosed at times. It's not helpful to the consumer. There's a lot of sifting and sorting through additional data and layers in order to get to the place of informed decision.
What's your take, Dan? You have used most of these tools. What do you think about the current competitive landscape of AI tools right now?
Yeah.
I think that it's super interesting. I think it's proper. I think that all of the AI platforms are a little bit different. I think that they are collectively using the data to enhance their performance. I think also that we are in a summer days as far as if in a year overall lookout at something. We are like in the summer days of AI for its first year, meaning we traveled a lot in the last 4 or 5 years just building the whole system that's able to collect and arrange data immediately in a fast process to push it back out, and then also have it have the AIs talking to each other and thinking things out before the output comes through. I think that we are going to be entering into a place after these facilities that are built in Tennessee and in Texas, these giant AI facilities for Grok and for OpenAI, that somehow there's going to be a monetary value that's going to be put onto these systems. It seems like I'm kind of feeling it now. A free version that it all started out with was the kind of like the glory heydays. You just had free version and it was just open sourced for anything you looked into. Now, if you notice, there's paid versions. There's multiple paid versions.
Yeah. And
what hasn't happened is advertisement hasn't kicked in. So in my heart, I just feel that we're going down inevitably a path of two trajectories, which will either be multiple paid versions or subscriptions of layers of the AI that you're going to be able to use. In other words, personal, school, education, or business. You're going to have tiers that they will allow a certain amount of data that flows into your device or wherever you are pulling from. And so there will be competition between the models subscriptions and then the advertisements that are going to eventually start coming in. I always lean into to not forget that it's still such the beginning. Try to learn as much as you can. Use it as much as you can, and not just for novelty, because they will slowly started to be fenced in. Things will start to get walled in, and we'll have to either pay for certain types of knowledges or certain types of subscriptions that we'll need to use. And I'll find this in business, in the business tech world, especially for fast computations. We haven't discussed anything like quantum computing. We don't need to really talk about that yet, but it's happening. It's going to be here. And when that does come and happen, all these variable stages and layers are going to show themselves for real.
Well, Ted, we got less than a minute before we go to commercial break. What's your take before we do that?
I'm encouraged by the level of competition that's out there with the different AI presenters. Like this weekend, I used Google Gemini a lot, and I was impressed at how much it's progressed. I don't normally use it. I'm more concerned about the competition between AI and Web3 for attention and for the world's investment. I want Web3 to not get left behind, because I think the sweet spot is the two of them developing together. So.
Yes, well, I agree with you. There's a lot to be said about the need for those two to work together, and also how they compete for money. They compete for talent. They compete for so many different things. Well, we're going to take a break here at 1340 a.m. KOMY, home of Schoolhouse Radio. We'll be back again in 4 minutes to wrap up our time here at Beachside Tech Talk. Thank you for joining us.
See, a community has all parts of the body, and without every part of it, it won't function correctly. That's primal. That's real. To tokenize a community is to ensure that you use decentralization to make this community thrive now and into the future. That it can scale and sustain. That's the scalability. Go find a community that needs a heart and go feel for them. Go find a community that needs a brain and go think for them. Find your people. Find your purpose. They need a full functioning community. The community matters so much to a human. If that is the thing that people need most, is to be part of something. Wouldn't we want to accelerate the ability for people to find their community? People can actually figure out who they belong to and who belongs to them. Nobody stays on the street if they find their purpose in a people. Nobody.
I love what the Lord's doing, what He's building, and just being around amazing Filipino community, like there's amazing people.
Community is not supposed to be a bunch of eyeballs that see and do nothing, a bunch of mouths that speak and never listen. A community is supposed to be a holistic team of people.
Unless you understand the reality of who you are and the way that the world is going, then you will not be able to make the wise decisions moving forward the way that you could have. Your time is limited to be part of human teams that do these things, because these large language models are just simply better than us at a lot of stuff and faster than us.
My name is Ian Utilli, And I've been an independent tech entrepreneur for over 20 years in the Silicon Valley. I strongly encourage you to look into how can AI and blockchain collaborate to bring the best of both worlds. If you are an innovator and if you intend to build great technology, you're part of an ecosystem and everything is kind of a rising tide raises all ships. It is noble leaders and savage communities that will build the future. In the tech world, my message to you today is to be a peacemaker.
Everybody, be a storyteller. Do it. Doesn't matter if it's hard, doesn't matter if it's uncomfortable, doesn't matter if you're even good at it. Just be a storyteller. I am here to bring you peace. May you trust that humanity will be benefited by this technology as humanity has been benefited by technology for millennia. Envision neighborhoods where AI predicts needs and Web3 funds solutions instantly, creating thriving connected worlds. In this visionary segment of Beachside Tech Talk, we like to explore how these different techs, both AI and Web3 and just the whole bucket of automation, can revolutionize all of society. But today, our topic is community and philanthropy. So my question to my co-hosts here right now is, if we close our eyes, we fast forward 50 years. It's a breezy summer day in 2075. And we're walking through a vibrant community garden that's tended by AI helpers and robots, with neighbors completely integrated into the process through a decentralized autonomous organization that basically feeds and takes care of all the needs of that garden. What does that look like for our grandkids? What does the future look like when we have all these different automation tools combined, not just with the software, combined with the idea of robots as well? So talk to me a bit about what's on your guys' mind in that regard. Go ahead, son.
And you're saying of AI monitoring our neighborhood, our community, figuring out the needs and the best interventions, and then automatically allocating resources to them, you know, like taking urban farming to the next level. I'm going to have a huge bunch of tomatoes coming through.
Yeah, I've seen.
Imagine if AI could even help me increase my yield. And, you know, what if we could augment all that? Everyone has an urban garden. And so we're sharing, or, you know, like it's taken, like having a micro market where I don't need to have a huge crop in order to share my excess and get value from that. That'd be a beautiful future.
What is the beautiful future that we want? Because what we want, if we speak it out, it has a higher tendency to manifest itself, right? What do we want with robots? What do we want with AI? What do we want with these different things? What do we want to have happen in the future?
Well,
I want human flourishing for everyone.
And what does that look like, Ted? How does automation help us get to human flourishing over the next decade, 50 years, 100 years? How do you envision that happening?
Well, solving the issues. I think we need to start to realize that the tech revolution up till this point has not delivered that. Certainly not in Silicon Valley. While technology has created a $4 trillion company in NVIDIA, human trafficking, mass incarceration, very high rates of recidivism, which means when they get out of prison, they keep going back in, food insecurity, homelessness, addiction, loneliness, all these issues that we would say are negative, that are indicators of systemic poverty, are increasing. So the divide between the haves and the have-nots is increasing and getting more dramatic, not decreasing. I want to break that trend. So, you know, eliminating homelessness, creating housing for everyone, solving our issues of human trafficking, protecting our most vulnerable citizens, most vulnerable community, solving the distribution issues of healthy calories. You know, food insecurity is not an issue that we don't have enough food, or not even that we have enough healthy food, but we don't distribute it, and the poor get unhealthy calories.
We know the end result that you're talking about, right?
But how do we get there?
We're talking about Museum of the Incarcerated. We're talking about our descendants never even understanding the current situation that we find ourselves in here in the 21st century. But how does automation, how does technology, how do robots, how does AI, how do Web3, specifically, if you could wave your magic wand and create something that would help get to that outcome, how do you envision that? Like, what does that look like? Because you're in the midst of all this. Go ahead, Nigel.
One of the first...
Nigel's all up on the mic. He's ready to go, bro. You got to hear from the man on the East Coast. Go ahead, Nigel.
Okay, so start with acknowledgement, which is usually the cornerstone of where things break down. I think there are things that are right in front of us that we don't acknowledge. And some of that is because we're not paying attention. Some of it is because we're distracted. Some of it is because people are obstructing that view. Some of it is because people are distorting that view. Sometimes we don't have the proper support to make sure we see it. And then it goes to cooperation. So think about this show that everyone's watching, this podcast, this radio show. There had to be a degree of cooperation for the five of us to get into this room. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't get to this place in a super short period of time. Not that it couldn't have, but until we have universal acknowledgement of certain truths, and not the convenient narrative, but the transparent reality of it, combined with the cooperation towards a common goal, you're going to automate more problems, I think. And I think automation is a very valuable tool, but if the processes are broken, you're going to have other issues. I think there's a true opportunity for root cause analysis to start to unearth solvable problems. Rather than focusing on the things we don't agree on, there is put the focus on things that we could universally agree on. And there are a few of them that I could think of off the top of my head. No one wants to see homeless people. No one wants to see the elderly and the most vulnerable of our society being preyed upon.
For sure.
No one wants to see veterans not get the treatment that they deserve. Start there.
Yeah, you're right, Nigel. Those are great points. I feel like our medical and health industry is really being at the forefront of the digital age. Also, you know, long gone there seem to be the days that we go and see our doctor and have the little hammer put on your knee and the little big popsicle stick shoved into your mouth. You're not having that happen anymore. You're going to see that you're noticing that Zoom meetings are being the thing to go to of the day for doctor visits, unless something is of urgency. The crazy thing about that also is primary care provider. I'm sure people can understand. Heard that word before. That's what a doctor is now. That's their title and their name, and the AI automation is trying to help as much as it can, but I think people who see a doctor of any kind will know that what I'm about to say is kind of like standard operating procedure. You're going to go see a primary care provider, and it's going to be the conversation, of 10 or 15 minutes. And it's important that in that short amount of time, you know what you need to ask that provider. However, if you need other provisions that are necessary for you, for example, you have a foot pain or you have eye pain or whatever it is, we have specialists now. So your primary care doesn't perform any of these specialties anymore. They will refer you. So I think that we have this push and pull like a tide system that's happening in our healthcare, but this is one of the biggest areas, like you were saying, Nigel, with homelessness or our veterans, but our healthcare system is going to be the one area that's going to be proving itself probably more quickly than other areas because it's so important to us.
I've brought this up in the past. Cryptography was a weapon of mass destruction during World War II.
What does that mean? That it was a weapon of mass destruction?
They thought of cryptography like they would think of things to make nuclear bombs. It's a very dangerous mathematical algorithm, and cryptography was being used to break security from government to government. And so that's how they qualified it. That way, if somebody leveraged cryptography to try to harm the U.S. government during World War II, they could bring the full extent of the law of treason and things of that nature upon them. Now, one of the more exciting things that I've read about was published by Cointelegraph recently, and it's Gavin Wood. He talked about going from a weapon of mass destruction to a socially beneficial public good. So his vision is that within the next decade, all Web3 technology and all cryptocurrency will become a public good. So instead of a weapon of mass destruction, it becomes a public good in 100 years. And I think that is the type of vision where people start thinking to themselves like, oh, okay, so if this mathematical technology algorithm goes from a thing where governments just think of it like, oh, this is how our enemies can break us and harm us, to, oh, this is how we benefit humanity the most, I think that's quite exciting. Another thing that I saw in Technology Review was that there's a lot to be said over the next decade of how AI can unlock the human mind and our potential. Right, when you combine these artificial intelligence tools with our current capacity for thinking, they say that 5% of our brain is used. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if we're only using 5% of our brain, I know that I forget things constantly. Every time I'm sad, it's because I forgot all the things that made me glad. Every time I'm angry, it's because I somehow forgot all the things that gave me joy. Every time I lack faith and I doubt, it's because somehow I forgot about all the incredible supernatural experiences I've had in my life. Like, we have clearly a problem with memory, but if we truly only use 5% of our brain, then the ability for us to maybe have technology spark the other 95%, all of a sudden we start having more full capacity of our intellect, would be quite something. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know if that's all completely accurate, but that's just things on my mind.
And I wonder what they mean when they say that we only use 5% of our brain. I wonder if that means that out of the space, it's only 5% of the volume, or what do they mean by it?
Ted wants to step in as the scientist of our team.
He's a myth buster.
He wants to myth bust us.
Professor Ted.
Okay, Professor Ted, Dr. Ted, what do you got to say?
I just know that it's a myth. Although there's huge advances in human brain research for us to take more advantage of our brains, but this idea that we only use 5% of our capacity is a myth. Let's ask ChatGPT or some AI to tell us why that's a myth and what the latest science is on that. But that's a myth.
I'm just curious about who's we.
Mm-hmm.
We is us.
We is referring to human beings. It's the use of the language in this term
There
could
ain't
be
no
undefined,
I
but
in T,
basically all human
but
beings.
there is an I in win.
We are all unique beings.
Minus Nigel, of course. You use
varying amounts of our
120% of
brain.
your brain
I
power.
love when we all talk at the same time. The best. So what we're talking about is the potential of this technology, right? The potential of Web3 technology being a public good, the potential of AI unlocking our capacity in ways that it never has before. How about the thought of cryptocurrency being the number one medium by which people donate? What happens when donating crypto is as easy as swiping a credit card? What happens when we start doing $100 billion a year in crypto donations? What happens when it starts becoming $1 trillion a year? What happens when we remove the middlemen from the donation game? Right now, you want to donate to your local community foundation. You want to donate to your local church or synagogue or mosque. You want to donate to, the Second Harvest Food Bank or whatever's feeding people, or something that's housing people. Right now, there's a bunch of organizations They're trying to get their 0.5% and their 3%. They want you to use your credit card so that everyone's trying to take a little piece of that. What they don't want is they don't want you to get the money to the people in need as fast as possible and get 100% of that money right to the person in need. They all want to stick in and try to grab a little bit of that and make themselves seem invaluable. My belief is that a lot of these middlemen are not invaluable. They are actually slowing the process down. They're causing a lot of unnecessary headaches. And ultimately, I'd love to see that cryptocurrency become the primary way that communities are built and the foundation's brought in financially. So to me, that's a very exciting thing.
I would disagree with the right way you're framing that. I would see crypto as actually a next step. I would see the competition of everybody wanting to get in there is what I've seen is it's actually driving it. It's getting smaller and smaller pieces are taken for the money transaction. So now it's possible right now under the current system, like the nonprofit that I lead, the majority of our transactions, or at least half of them, are free. So we use Zelle. Zelle is already free, a bank transfer. And that's made it democratized to do it very cheaply. It's free for us and it's free for the donor. We also use PayPal, and because of the competition that's in there, and I could use other ones too, I think they take like 2%, which is a tiny bit, and it might be 3%. And there's pressure in that. And it wasn't that long ago where the percentages were 5%, 10%. So now crypto is the next step to be decentralized. But the challenge we're facing, one of the biggest problems I see right now is not the ability to give streamline, but discoverability to know which nonprofits are moving the needle the best. There's lots of innovation taking place in the nonprofit world, but the nonprofit industry, the capital markets that fuel nonprofit services, social services, do not reward innovation. So like AI, like one cool application I heard out is an AI application called GrantX that now allows nonprofits to compete, the smaller ones, to compete much more competitively against the large nonprofits to find out what grants are there. It streamlines the process, makes it much more accessible. And the AI is really good, in their application is specific AI, at learning what your organization actually does, what you qualify for, and then matching it with all the grant opportunities out there. That's one cool way that's addressing that issue of discoverability.
I like that, Ted.
If we think about,
I had a question for everybody here.
Go ahead, Nigel, please.
About, do you think that we are properly utilizing AI to simplify things that are just overly complicated to solve problems that we all have, that we will all benefit from the solution?
Well, I was thinking about how many different nonprofit organizations would be better run by AI in the future rather than humans. You know, humans have a tendency to start off with really pure motives. How many people say, if I'm a millionaire, I'm going to give half my money away. But when they make minimum wage, they're not giving half their money away. So we always have these big, huge ambitions of what we will do if then we will. And that happens with nonprofits. Like one day, if we have this much donation, or if we have this big of a building, or if we have this big of a staff, then we're going to do this big, huge thing for the humans in our county. And it's like, well, are you, on the scale that you do have, are you making that big of an impact right now? And there's a lot of problems around the nonprofit space where as soon as money starts flowing in and there's positions of power and positions of influence, positions of authority, it does become very challenging to get the end result needed. And as these organizations grow and mature and get bigger bank accounts and they have more property and more things going on, it becomes harder and harder and harder for them to be nimble and to serve people the way that they could. Therefore, in the future, I would imagine that AI, maybe not exclusively, maybe partially, AI can be running a lot of these organizations to ensure that the money is transferred from the donor to the person in need as fast as possible with tracking and be able to prove exactly where that money went, how it happened, and provide all the administrative and operational infrastructure to ensure the best end result. What were your thought, Malachi?
Well, I'm just having the thought of what makes you think that if AI is running these nonprofit organizations, the AI won't share that human condition. It's just feeding off of the data that we've created. I mean, if you're saying that it just becomes an infrastructure thing and it doesn't have any bias, then maybe, but how do you avoid something like AI taking bias? Because we're people, and people are the ones that are telling AI how it should work. And so I don't really see how that could work.
Well, there's the reality of how is this any different for a for-profit company? Why should AI run nonprofits and not for-profits? So my response to that is AI probably should run for-profit companies as well, because the customer will be served better. Whatever employees are needed to be there will probably be taken care of better. The things will happen quicker. So only time will tell if this is a reality. As we come to a close today, we have about a minute left, guys. So is there any other big final thoughts on the future of all things tech and automation and how they impact community and philanthropy, whether it's AI, Web3, robots, etc.? Any final thoughts from you guys before we say goodbye to our friends here on the radio and those watching or listening to us on the internet?
I'll just say that we should try to measure things with the same yardstick. Hold ourselves accountable to really looking at things as unbiasedly as possible so that we have the best chance at contributing effectively to the greater good.
Anyone else want to throw in? I mean, Ted, does your chair want to say anything?
It's so
I heard my chair. Sorry about that. It's been piping in.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Beachside Tech Talk at 1340 AM, KMY, home of Schoolhouse Radio. We'll be back again tomorrow.
Bum, 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 bum.
I have something really, really important to share with all of you live and anybody that watches this in the near future. And for those that watch this decades from now, I think you'll find that I'm right about my optimistic vision of what's to come. We call machine learning, large language models, AI. We call it artificial intelligence. A lot of people are waiting for super intelligence, waiting for the moment of singularity. I'm not so convinced that's going to happen. I have a sense that this innovation, like all of the past innovations, are going to be good for humanity. Today, we have what I'll call AI doing supervised co-creation. I think where we're going very soon is unsupervised co-creation. So this is like agentic AI, going from AI to where we let AI create its own AI agents, agentic AI. Now it's becoming unsupervised co-creators. I think where we're going, before you know it, is creation. AI does not have to be super intelligent. AI does not have to have a moment of singularity. AI does not have to have a soul or feelings. AI does not have to have a strong emotional reason or a vision for the future in order to become a creator. So for all of you that consider yourself creators, understand that there's a high probability that even without a moment of singularity, AI is going to go from supervised co-creation to unsupervised co-creation to fully independent creation. And where do we go from there? There are 8 billion humans in the world. Those 8 billion humans consume things. What happens when all of the independent AI starts to become consumers? What happens to the price of Bitcoin? What happens to your favorite NFT collection? What happens to your favorite limited music or movies? When AI, even without a soul, simply wants to have an identity, and so the AI buys a Bored Ape, the AI buys a CryptoPunk, the AI buys Ethereum. Why? Because the AI wants to have an identifier that separates it from the other maybe trillions of other AIs that it all came to birth with supervised co-creation
unsupervised co-creation, full-blown creation, and then they become consumers. And then where do we go from there? I think ultimately, we're not headed to a universal basic income. I think where we're headed as humanity is a universal maximum income. You see, the economy is not a pie where everybody has to try to get their slice. The economy is like an unlimited skyscraper. There's unlimited floors. We can keep building this economy. We can go from trillions of GDP to Google's of GDP. I think Google's like the biggest number. And so if you think about Star Trek is based in this world, the world of universal maximum income, where every human has a roof, food, and all of their needs met, to where Kirk says, I want to go explore the stars, and so does the bartender. One goes to make drinks, one goes to take all the responsibility on of the crew. Both are partners in exploring the stars. Why? Because they experience universal maximum income. They find their community with other explorers of the universe. That became their people. That gave them purpose. How did that happen? Because before that, the AI became the consumers. And before that, the AI became the creators. And before that, the AI became unsupervised co-creators. And before that is today, where the AI is doing supervised co-creation with us, creating our business plans with ChatGPT, creating our images with Midjourney. We're here, everybody. We're at supervised co-creation. And where we're going and where we're almost at is unsupervised co-creation. Strap in, because independent creation is coming that will lead to AI wanting to have their own identity as consumers. We go from 8 billion humans consuming to tens of billions, hundreds of billions, trillions of consumers, which will unlock abundance for humanity in a way we've never comprehended before. May this vision give you a sense that it's not scary where we're headed. It's thrilling. Every innovation humanity's ever come up with has been good for humanity. So unless AI becomes different than every innovation we've ever done in all of history, it will ultimately lead to the good of our descendants.